So there's this DOJ lawsuit against Live Nation, which is merged with Ticketmaster. It's an antitrust lawsuit. It's in discovery right now. What are you guys thinking about it? It's basically also become a political thing. We can say that we have Amy Klobuchar, the Democrat from Minnesota, and Mike Lee, is it from Utah, the Republican, who are really blaming the Live Nation, Ticketmaster, and others for the rise in tickets, and not looking at the artist. Isn't it the artist though that controls the ticket price, and how does it work? And can we talk a little
Yeah.
bit about the margins and all of that stuff?
Yes, and one thing to go back to, what Danny said just before, is also the rising costs of touring due to inflation.
Mhm.
So a big part of why there may be less discretionary income and why we've had to raise prices from the artist side is because they can't run a profitable tour when stagehands have gone up, trucks have gone up. Production is very expensive, and thus you have to raise prices accordingly. But to back it up in more general, the price is usually a function of the guarantee that the promoter or venue is giving to the artist, and then you have to, back out from there enough money to cover, the artist costs and the production, and still leave enough profit for the artist. I mean, that's an overgeneralized way of describing it, but that's in its essence how you get to the ticket price. So when Live Nation comes out and says against the DOJ, we're not setting the ticket prices, they are correct. I mean, it's real because it is a function of what the artist is, requiring from them for a guarantee. And I think there's a lot of negligence on the part of the government officials who have come out grandstanding about Live Nation and about Ticketmaster without really knowing how things work.
And I think, Jared, a lot of the anger towards Live Nation really belongs towards the third party secondary market brokers, because they're the ones that are buying up tickets in bulk and then selling them for 10x, and neither you nor your clients nor I are participating in that. And so I think some of the frustration is misguided, and they've started to focus on the ticket price, but that isn't the root of the problem. Is the you know is That's economics, that's supply and demand, and like Jared said, that's market forces along with rising costs. The root of the issue, is Live Nation a monopoly? Yes, but not for the reasons that the DOJ and the public think.
Can you expand on that a bit? Like, well, why is it? Why do we need to have a monopoly? And there is AEG. Are they not? They're not as large as Live Nation, but is there an argument by Live Nation that they're not a monopoly, or are they admitting that they just say? Are you saying that we need that because of the economics? What are you saying?
I'm just saying
There are
factually
festivals like
there.
Glastonbury going on this weekend that is not a Live Nation
Yeah.
festival.
So,
But
so
there are four major festivals in the UK, and three of them are, I believe, Live Nation.
yeah, I think first of all, it's not the festival market specific. It's the entire live events business where I think that Live Nation does have a monopoly. I think, Jared, you're probably in a better position to speak to the relative size of AEG to Live Nation because you're on the sell side.
Yeah, and I think as it just relates to, what we were talking about with ticketing, I think Live Nation gets a lot of the brunt. Live Nation Ticketmaster gets a lot of the brunt for the high ticket prices. But if they are not capturing it, especially on hot events, the secondary market is. So as Danny says, it's really a function of supply and demand. So unless you can cap the resale costs, which I just saw in Maine, the government's governor signed into law that there's a 10%, and let's see how easy it is to enforce or not is a whole other story. But unless you can enforce something like that, it's really tricky. I mean, how do you prevent somebody from selling the ticket? And trust me, secondary I know a lot of brokers. They're backed by hedge funds. They have technology that gets them the bots to capture these tickets. There's major money in the secondary market. So Live Nation, if they're not, using dynamic ticketing, they're just, them and the artists are just going to get ripped off by somebody who has nothing to do with the show and has no investment in the show.
An
So,
interesting thing too is that the scalping of tickets actually exposes what the potential value is when you see what people are actually paying. Now,
correct.
that main, just to mention that, the main legislation that you're talking about, well, it's Governor Janet Mills signed a ticketing reform act that puts a price cap of 10% above face value. It bans speculative ticketing and includes fee disclosure requirements for both primary and secondary ticketers. And the law also enacts refund requirements on the secondary sellers. We'll see how that works for canceled events, counterfeit tickets, and untimely delivery and false representations. It also bans the use of bots to circumvent purchasing limits. I thought California was ahead of the curve, but I guess Maine is the new California.
And what's interesting is the only people who have come out against this are the secondary market, the StubHubs, so I find that very telling, that something that's, all these things are really quite obviously good for the, the market, especially if the artists really want to keep a price at a certain, threshold for their fans. And why would anyone have a problem with that?
And in fairness to Live Nation, they're for those restrictions too. Live Nation is also for putting a limit or some sort of constraint on the secondary sale. We get blamed, the promoter gets blamed, the artist gets blamed. And then that refund thing is so interesting because I can't tell you how many times I have customers mad that I won't refund the tickets that they bought through a broker.